Welcome to episode number 19 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Sinacroce and thrilled that you're spending this time with me today. Today I'm talking to Hani Mourra, based in Toronto, Canada, where my in-laws are also based. Hani is a software engineer, online marketing coach, and a father of two beautiful girls. He's the creator of SimplePodcastPress and SimpleVideoPress and is passionate about creating software to help businesses generate more leads using online video and podcasts. Hani and I met online many years ago when both our business modules were still very different, and we recently connected again because I heard him as a guest on someone's podcast, then purchased his podcast SimplePress plugin, and finally asked him if he considered himself an introvert because I just had this gut feeling. And now, here he is. Hi, Hani. How are you today?
I'm awesome, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm good. Great. Yeah, here it's already evening, and I know in Toronto it's what, mid-morning?
Yeah, it's 11 a.m.
Okay. Yeah, great. I'm actually going to visit my in-laws in Toronto this summer, so I'll make sure that we meet for coffee, okay?
That sounds great.
Yes.
Summer is awesome time to come.
It is, and we just reserved an Airbnb at the beaches, so...
Oh, that's really awesome. That's a popular spot in Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Hani, let's get started. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit, besides the official bio, a little bit about yourself and maybe kind of go into the more introverted side of Hani. We just talked offline that, sometimes online, we don't really come over as introverts, but tell us a little bit more about, the personal side.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a dad. I have two girls, I have a lovely wife, and just a small family at home, two kids, and we have a big family in Toronto, surrounding family, and I'm an introvert because I just enjoy being in my own space, in my own head, and I like family get-togethers, I like big get-togethers, but for me, being in my head, being kind of quiet, away, solving problems or figuring things out is kind of my comfort place. So for me personally, we have a family and we live in Toronto area. I've been doing kind of software for the past 3-4 years now and creating software tools. And I like it because it's kind of gets me to sit and focus. And I love working with teams. We have a team to do support. We have a team to do development, but I just kind of, it gives me time to think and to get in my own zone, in my own head and figure things out. And it's kind of the place I like to be in business. It's not alone in the sense, not around people. I need my space.
Right. So are you working from home, I assume?
Yeah, I work from home.
Okay. Yeah. I think it'd be very hard for an extrovert to be a software developer just working from home, right? That could be getting probably very lonely for an extrovert who needs a team, who needs to interact, who needs other opinions. So, and especially the software development, that's a lot of, focus and inward thinking. That's what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I do some of the coding, but I've been more and more stepping away from the coding side and focusing on almost like the architect of a building, right? Trying to put the blueprints together, trying to put the pieces together, figure out what problem we're solving, and then leave the better software developers in my team to kind of execute the plan. But it still need a lot of space, like a lot of mental space to sit and listen. You're gonna go through feedback, listen to what's going on in the industry, podcasting space, in the video space, live broadcasting space, figure out what the needs are. And I do talk to customers as well, which is something you need to do. Even if you're an introvert, you need to get on Skype calls or you can go to conferences. And I actually find myself, even as an introvert, I do enjoy going to conferences. And I don't go to many. I go once a year to the podcast movement, which is one of the biggest podcasting conferences. And I think what makes me feel good is in the beginning, I was kind of new to the space, the podcasting space, about 3 years ago. So I kind of got to know a lot of people over social media. So social media was an awesome platform for an introvert like me, because I got to meet people, connect with people, be myself, and kind of feel safe that there's nobody, I'm not trying to impress anybody in person or anything. I'm just kind of being myself online, helping out whenever I can. And as those years went by, then the conference came up and I went to my first conference. Oh, it was the funniest moment. I was just like a fly on the wall. Like I was like, I didn't know anybody. I knew them by name and face from Facebook groups and having a few conversations. And I just launched my first software at like a few weeks before the conference, just coincidence actually. And at this conference, I was like, I didn't know how to introduce myself. I didn't know if anybody knew my software or even heard of it. So it was a little bit uncomfortable. But what I really liked is because I've talked to people on Facebook, especially on Facebook, people were coming up to me and just introducing themselves, whether they knew me or not. It was the podcasting community was very welcoming.
That's nice.
And it felt great to kind of talk to people. And then once you do it a couple times, talk to one person, next person, it just became natural. It became fun, actually. In the beginning, it was a little uncomfortable. Then it became fun. So I've gone 3 years in a row, and every year, I just enjoy it more. I feel like I talk the whole time, just socializing.
Wonderful. And that doesn't drain your energy?
You know what drains my energy is funny. We're talking specifically about business. Like if I'm talking strictly about business, like, talk about my product, or someone asks me a lot of technical questions, it's fun in the beginning, but that can kind of get draining a little bit. But I find the most fun is just talking to the person, like just, going out for drinks, for dinner, and just chatting about, I'm sure we talk about podcasting stuff in general, but, just getting to know the people. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I'm starting to enjoy that part of it because it's not about the business side is you're not there to sell. You're there to meet people. And I call them friends, even though a lot of them we haven't met. We meet the first time at conferences, but we feel like we know each other. Mm-hmm. So I guess social media I got a big thanks to Facebook and the Facebook groups I'm a part of, because they made me feel welcome. And I feel like I know these people, a lot of people. I've known them on Facebook. And then when I meet them in person, it's a lot easier.
So true. Yeah. So what's interesting is what you're saying, that you're enjoying the conversations. Are these one-to-one conversations, or are you like in a group setting?
It's small groups. I'm not good in big groups.
Yeah.
I do give talk. I did give a talk at Podcast Movement, and I felt like I was sweating. And I'm sure I was. People were saying you look fine, you look great, but I was nervous. Even though I was very comfortable on the topic, I was a little nervous. But yeah, usually these conversations are in smaller groups, like 3, 4, 5 people. And I find myself kind of, in a group talking to 1 or 2 people, but I don't like to be the center of attention. So I'm always like having one-on-one or one-on-two conversations. And then maybe somebody else, or see somebody I recognize, I go say hi and I have a conversation with them in small groups. But if there was a big group around, I'd shy down. I'd shy away. I would be in the group just listening. I like to listen. Like I'm a very good listener. I just tend to sit there and listen and not contribute as much in a bigger group.
Yes. So I think we got a few takeaways from this is that conferences, yes, they can be intimidating for introverts, but if you go about it with a little bit of a strategy and you say, okay, I know that I'm not good in big groups. So you kind of look out for smaller groups where you can, sometimes even just only listen or engage, but with, just 1 or 2 people. And I think the other thing that is great is that you can develop relationships beforehand on social media. And then you go there and you actually already know people, even though you don't know them, but at least you've met on social media. So I think these are great takeaways for introverts on how to make these conferences not totally like so scary.
Yeah, no, the first one, it was so scary. I didn't even want to go.
Yeah.
But the organizers, who happened to be customers of mine, they just bought my software product. They said, my podcasting software, and they said, listen, we need you here. You need to come. You really need to come. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I've never been to a conference. I've never been to a big conference like this.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to come. You got to come. You got to come. And he convinced me to come. And I'm so glad I did, because even though it was uncomfortable the first time, it just got better the second time and even better the third time. And now I look forward to it. Next year, I'm looking forward to August for the next conference.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure you made some great relationships, business relationships. Like you said, it's not about pitching, but it's just about getting to know other people that refer you to other people. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I tend to steer the conversation away. Like sometimes people introduce me, oh, hey, come meet Hani. Oh, he has this great software for this. And then I say, oh, great, nice to meet you. What do you do? Like I almost steer the conversation away from business because at a conference, especially after the conference, the dinner, the social part, you just want to be social.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a very introverted trait as well, not to try to get all the attention towards yourself, but actually say, hey, what do you do? What do you do in life? And yeah, not necessarily just what do you do in business, but in life, what's interesting to you. So,
yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about your business because I want to make sure that people understand. I think it's the very first time that I have a software developer on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to I think for people to understand what you do. So tell us a little bit how you currently generate revenue for your business.
Yeah. So I have right now 3 software products. They are WordPress plugins, one for YouTube, one for podcasting, and one for Facebook Live. And the purpose of these plugins are you install them on your WordPress site and they automatically take the content, whether it's a YouTube video, a podcast, or Facebook Live. As soon as you're done recording it, it'll automatically make a blog post on your site, add the video or the audio podcast, and publish that episode on your site. It has an email opt-in box to help you grow your audience. So it's an automation tool and also, in a sense, a list building tool. So it's publishing this content, awesome content you've created on other platforms and adding it as blog posts on your site automatically. You don't even need to be logged into your WordPress site for it to happen.
Yeah, and I think typical introvert style, you're not really telling the whole story here because I just installed your player on my podcast. Or on my WordPress website. And it really, what I like about it is visually, it's very appealing. So it looks very nice because I was able to use my colors that I'm using on the website. And it has an opt-in. So that's very unique. Not very many players have that. So you can build your list. And then it has all the share buttons as well. So I really like that, and they're nice purple like my website. So really, it just really looks good. So really big kudos for that. So so you're selling those plugins basically, and that's how you generate pretty much a passive income, right? Because do you have a customer care team, or how do you deal with customer care?
Yeah, I have one person dealing with a lot of the support tickets. For all 3 products. We have a developer, actually now 2 developers. I'm working on a new project, so I have 2 developers going, plus myself. I don't consider myself a developer. I don't like to use that word developer for myself because I'm not really doing the execution as much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm more like the architect.
You're running the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm running it. Yeah. I'm listening to the feedback from customers, the complaints, the positive feedback, negative feedback, and just kind of building roadmaps of what features to add down the road, and focusing more on getting the marketing side of things, like getting the product out there, doing sales pages, doing some webinars, podcast interviews, just kind of focus on getting the word out for the products.
Yeah. Wonderful. Excellent. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about some, I like to call them the introverted superpowers. What would you say is your biggest strength as an introverted entrepreneur? You mentioned the listening. I think that's definitely one of them.
Yes. Yeah. Listening. Absolutely. Especially in groups, in person and in groups. Mm-hmm. You just kind of learn to listen, and you become a good listener, which is important. Even when you're just getting feedback from surveys, or you're listening on like monitoring Facebook groups. It's a good skill to have, to be able to listen and not necessarily have to reply back to everything. Just take it all in. Yeah. That's definitely a strong point.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the challenge? I mean, we already talked about the conference, so I guess that's one of the challenges. Do you feel that kind of challenge of speaking on stage? Do you have the same kind of feeling when you have to do a webinar, that you're a bit nervous because you get that exposure?
It's funny. In the beginning, yes. but I don't do a lot of webinars. And even podcasts. When I get interviewed on different podcasts, I used to be nervous and conscious of what I say, but now I feel like I just feel safe. Like I feel like I'm not talking in person. We are having a person-to-person conversation, but I'm on Skype and you're on Skype, and I'm in the comfort of my own place, and I just feel more comfortable. So I find webinars, even though I am on camera, I don't feel as nervous as I do in live presentations. And I think it's kind of to do with your safe place, but also over time, you find, like I find this in my business, that a lot of customers are repeat customers. So people who have bought already a product of mine come to a webinar or come to a training session when I do a webinar to train on the product. So I got to know, I see a lot of familiar faces, names, and I feel comfortable. Like I feel like, I don't have to try hard to really sell. They've had a good experience with my products. They're here on a webinar listening to something I have to say or teach, and I feel comfortable. Like it's a comfortable environment. And I think the fact that I'm behind my computer screen gives me comfort as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's the same for me. If I have to go speak on stage, and even if there's only 50 people, I'm definitely more nervous than if I have to do a webinar and there might be 200 or 300 people. It's just very strange. But just standing there in front of them is completely different. You're completely out of your comfort zone, and I've been doing it quite a lot, but still every time the same effect. So
I haven't done a lot of public speaking, and I've done a couple, so maybe three times, and every time I got up there, I'd feel nervous, but you know what I found for me? I found it comforting. Like I find it very comforting when I speak about a topic that I enjoy and I know really well, and that makes I think it's back to that comfort feeling. Yes. Right? As an introvert, you like to be comfortable, whether it's in your own environment or in your own knowledge. Like I know this topic's inside out. I don't have to memorize anything. It just flows. I can talk forever on this topic of podcasting. Yeah. I just, I'm surrounded by it. I consume it. It's my obsession, kind of an obsession. So I feel comfortable talking about it. I do get nervous in front of people, but having the topic being very familiar, it makes it easier for me as an introvert.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. As introverts, we like to be super prepared. And so, obviously, if you're already familiar with the topic, that's, then you're definitely not less nervous. But if it's something that is kind of new and you don't know what to expect, what kind of people are there? Are they going to ask questions that you don't know? All of a sudden you're like, uh-oh. So that comfort makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And the same with your business, like my products and services, my products, the first one I launched with a business partner. And I was nervous. I was like, I don't know if people are going to like it, if it's going to work as well. What if it has this? What if that? I felt very uncomfortable because my product it wasn't me, but it was my product going out to a lot of people. And it's the same kind of feeling where it's like, I'm outside my comfort zone now. What if they don't like it? What if what if this happens? Yeah. And then once you do it once, you gain that confidence to say, okay, you're going to have problems. Yeah. You're going to learn from them. You're going to get better at it, and you're going to get more comfortable. So, but I still have that feeling when I launch software.
I think you will always have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as an entrepreneur, there's just no certainty because that's what we do. We're creative people. And so every time we do something new, well, there's no guarantee that people are going to like it or that it's going to be received well. So there's no certainty. And I think we just have to, get used to that. And every time kind of have that nice voice in their head that says positive things and not just a nasty one that says, oh, they're going to think it's, bad. And so, it's just one of these things as an entrepreneur to kind of learn how to live with it. Really.
Yeah. You have to just know that it's there. It's going to happen every time.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, you just steer and you adjust your path and you try again. And that's kind of the bottom line. It's going to happen. You need to deal with it. If it happens, and whatever level, like however extreme it is, you have to expect it and then respond to it there, or adjust and when you do your next launch or your next product, do things a little bit differently, learn from it.
Learn from it. Yeah, that's key. Okay, Hani, take us to an aha moment that you've had where maybe it, was a business direction, a change of direction, or maybe it's, when you realized that you're an introvert, or some kind of aha moment where you said, okay, now I get it. This is what I need to do.
Yeah. Okay. This is, maybe not necessarily introvert related, but from my business perspective, you and I met, I think, back in when I was doing a video blog. My main focus initially was creating video content, and I had a video blog, and I was just putting content out there and teaching people. But I wasn't getting that satisfaction. I was like, I was putting content out there, getting good feedback. It's good. I got over my fear of being on the camera and stuff. It's all good. But like, what's the business behind it? So I'm just blogging right now. And then, I don't know, one day I was sitting there and said, I studied computer engineering. Like, I'm a software guy. I don't understand software. It just hit me. I love video. I know how to use software. Software is a great tool. Let me build a video software. And it was just like magic. It was like, wow, that's so obvious, but that's exactly what I got excited about, that fact that it was a video and it was a software. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know what the idea was. I didn't know anything. I just knew that this was it. Like this is a moment, like a turning point.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I just kicked off my first software. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to hire a developer. It didn't work out the first time. I had to hire another developer, architected everything. It was a lot of learning and mistakes, but I just knew that this is the path I wanted to take. And that led me to, where I am now with the software.
That's awesome. It's funny how you say it's so obvious. It looks so obvious looking back, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, how come nobody ever told me that? You guys all knew me. How come nobody ever said? But exactly, I think we're all on a certain path for a reason. And, maybe you just had to go through that whole video blogging experience. And because, if you just launch something without any experience or without, really having gone through that path, sometimes it's not working as well as having had some failures and having had this past experience, and now you were ready, and that's why it worked. So
yeah, I believe that too. Like you did along my video blogging path, met a lot of people in the video space, and and then you just get to know these people. And then when I launched my software, they helped me promote it. Like it wasn't planned, but that's what it ended up doing to help me promote it. Yeah. So the things that happened before, absolutely, they happened for a reason.
Exactly.
And it's not clear in the beginning. Like I didn't know what my reason was.
No.
But
yeah.
So just follow your gut feeling. And even if you're not really necessarily monetizing something right now, or you don't know how to monetize it, but you're creating some good content, or you're creating something that's great, keep at it. Yeah. Think about how you can expand it, but just keep at it, because it's going to lead you to somewhere.
Exactly. And I think it's so important to realize that, all these great stories that you hear of people, being successful and having these great businesses. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And what I want to uncover in this podcast is that, people didn't just drop from the sky and have these great businesses. That there was a path. And I think it's very rare that you actually do find a person that just kind of knew what they were doing all along and were successful from the start.
Absolutely. So, nobody knows what they're doing.
No.
You don't stumble into it, but you kind of almost stumble into it because you're doing something in a certain area that you love doing.
Yeah.
And then you just, you start discovering problems. Then you think, I can create a course, or I can create a service or a product that can solve this problem, because you're so consumed in this particular area. So just being there is something. Being there with something you're passionate about, it's always a good move, even if you're not monetizing yet, or it's not a full business yet.
Yeah. If
you enjoy it, keep doing it. Whether you're doing a podcast, or you're creating videos, or you're creating blog posts, you're in that space. Like you're in that niche, and you're going to find problems. You're going to start learning about what people's problems are, and you can possibly come up with a solution. What's interesting? People told me the advice was, hey, start a video course. Teach, you're doing a blog, teach a video course, how to make videos on YouTube, and how to, get video marketing, how to get traffic from YouTube. And I thought about it a few times, but it didn't feel right. Like I didn't get excited about it. I'm like, well, I don't really want to. I want to teach people, but I enjoy doing it on a blog post. But as a course, I didn't feel it. But when software idea came to me, it just felt like the right next move
That
for
was
me.
your
So
thing.
it became it was my thing long. I didn't recognize it when I did. The video software came out, and less than 6 months later, this podcasting software came out, and a few months later, Facebook Live. It just kind of one led to the next. So now I have 3 products, working on my 4th, just because of that first thing that happened when I was that light bulb moment when I thought, hey, take your passion, take your skills, software, video, and make a product.
That was definitely a big aha moment for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I never forget that day. I don't remember the exact date. I just remember that moment where it just ding,
it all
literally,
fell into place.
without the sound effect, but it was literally like a light bulb. This is so obvious, right? But it wasn't obvious.
It's similar happened to me because I was kind of a social media generalist, but I've always had I was always leaning towards LinkedIn because that's just, as an introvert. And I just realized probably 3 months ago when somebody asked me, well, why are you working with LinkedIn? And does that relate to introversion? And I realized it does relate to introversion because on LinkedIn, I don't have to share all day like I do on Facebook about my personal life and, where I'm going on vacation and what my kids do and all of that. I'm just in this business mindset where, I only share because I want to, improve my business or build business relationships. So when I started to focus only on LinkedIn, and now I only work with people on LinkedIn, it was a scary moment because I'm like, really? I'm just going to say no to all these other clients and really only focus on LinkedIn is the best decision I've ever made because, now I'm known for one thing. And that was a big move for me as well. But
that's very interesting that you say that. It makes a lot of sense that you say it. Like LinkedIn is kind of the introvert's platform in a way, because you're not sharing about your thoughts, your opinions, hey, I don't like Donald Trump or whatever.
Yeah,
you're not thinking, you're not sharing this.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
just
it's do you want to do business? Okay, let's talk about business.
No, that's very interesting. Wow. That's very interesting observation.
All right. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about some, I like to call them the golden nuggets, some 3 things, content or tools that you're using that you think have contributed to your success and that you'd like to share with the audience. So the first one is a personal habit. What do you think you do, on a regular basis that contributes to your success?
I wish I do it more often, but it's kind of two quick things. One is my health, like eating and exercising.
Yeah.
When I don't exercise, I know it. Like my brain literally does not work. It can't think straight. So I try to eat well most of the time, of course, not all the time. And then I try to exercise a couple times a week. It just helps me clear my head, helps me focus on solving problems, day-to-day stuff and long-term problems. So taking care of your health and don't get obsessed with your business is one big takeaway. And just focusing. I tell my daughters all the time, focus on one thing. And I think I'm telling myself, really, not telling them. It's more like focus on one thing. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not focusing on one thing. That's why I'm not getting anything done.
Yeah.
So when I block off some hours in a day, I say, just focus on this one task, get that done. And everything else is, if you get it done, it's bonus, but get this one critical, time sensitive thing done and focus on it.
Yeah. I think that's a reminder for all of us because even though that's all we hear and that's what we know that's true, it's still, at least I know that I'm still struggling with it and checking emails too often.
Me too. We're all guilty. I turn off my notifications on my email, Facebook, everything.
Yeah.
But still, when I get stuck, I tend to just look at my phone and just open my email.
Exactly.
I'm like, but why did I do that? I shut it down, and I find I'm obviously way more productive. I put, turn the phone off or I put it far away and just get this one thing done. And because it's not because it's about the one thing, it's about that feeling the amazing feeling you have when you accomplish something. Even if it's even if you have to send this very important email, sometimes like when I send email to my newsletter, it takes me like an hour and a half to write the email.
Yeah.
And I just need to focus. And I feel so good once I send it out because I achieve something. So focus and distraction free is my next tip.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe we can mention here I think it's an add-on for Gmail that I use. It's called Inbox Pause.
Interesting.
So that's a good one where you can just put your inbox on pause, and so it won't like send you the emails until you unpause it, and then it'll just load all the emails. So I've been trying to use that. Can't say that I've always been successful, but it's a good tool. What other tool do you use for efficiency or focus or anything?
I love this tool called Trello. I'm not sure if you used it before. It's basically like a visual. It's very visual because I'm a visual person. It's almost like you have these columns and you stick sticky tabs on them almost. So I have these columns for, next software update is going to have these features. It's a very visual way, and I can drag and drop things across different columns.
Right.
So if I have my to-do list, I have my, roadmap for my product. Everything is in a different column, and as things get done, I drag them from one column to the next. Or I want to organize things prioritize things. I just bump them up the top of the column, down the column. So it's a very visual tool. It's web-based, nothing to download. It's free. I like free stuff. And there's an iPhone app and a smartphone app that you can use when you're on the road. Like sometimes you think of an idea. I'm like, I want to add this as a new feature for the product. So I go into my to-do list or my backlog, I call it, enter a new card in there that says, here it is, this idea. And I just put it there. And then next time when I go to some planning, I can prioritize it later. So it's a great tool. I use it for a lot of my stuff on business. It's just, especially when you work on a team, because you can share what they call boards. You can share this board with somebody and they know exactly what they have to work on and what order to do these things, especially with the software team.
Nice. Is it similar to Slack or not at all?
No, there's no communication. Slack. I haven't used Slack. I tried it once. I was so confused. And I'm like, to me, it sounds like a distraction, to be honest. Yes. It sounds like, why do I want to get notified every second when someone has a question? Like, I don't want that. I have my stuff.
I think it's an extrovert tool.
I think so. It's a very social tool, but it sounds like a big distraction to me. So I haven't used it. But this is more like a board, a bulletin board that you put Post-it notes on it.
Right. I've seen it before. It is very visual, but to be very honest, it looked confusing to me too. But I think you might have just to get used to, using it a little bit. And I like the fact that you can use it in a team. So that's definitely.
Yeah, you can share the board and then you can add labels. Like I have, for example, this feature is assigned to this person, this feature assigned to this developer. And they mark it when they're done. So I know for me to test it and check it out. So we have a system where we tag things, we set labels on things.
Yeah.
And it's very visual. It's very color coded. Like you look at it and I know exactly what's going on, what's done, what's not done, what they're working on, who's working on it. So if I have a question, I can just talk to that developer. So I like it because it's very visual.
Yeah.
That's important for me. It's not like a project management tool.
It's not
where
like
it's
Basecamp. It's like too complex.
It's too complex. This is like a bulletin board with, you can define how many columns you want, call them whatever you want, and then just stick Post-it notes on each column and then move them from one column to the next when they're done.
Well, I'll definitely have another look at it. Thanks for mentioning that. What about a book that you think this audience would appreciate?
I be honest with you, I don't read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
You're the first introvert who doesn't read a lot of books.
Really? Oh, I didn't know. That's interesting. I like podcasts.
You like podcasts, and mention a podcast that like your favorite podcast right now.
My favorite podcast right now, it's been like this for the past couple of years, and you'll see why it's obvious when I tell you the name of the podcast. It's called Startups for the Rest of Us. And it's about people who are doing software startups. Okay. So I learned so much just from listening to other people's experiences. And They do teach a little bit, but it's more about sharing their experiences and their journey as they're going along every week, every Tuesday. If it's not there on Tuesday, I panic. Like I literally I tweet them like, guys, what's going on? Like, I need an episode.
Yeah.
It's so addictive, but it's just their journey. And
wow, so it's almost like a mastermind, because you feel like, there's some connection, because you have very similar business models, right?
Exactly. That's what I think. I used to listen to so many podcasts, and then again, back to the whole distraction thing. I'll listen to one on Facebook ads and one on this topic, one on that topic. I'm like, wait a second. Like, I'm not ready for Facebook ads yet. Like right now, back then I was just focusing on starting a software and what's involved in hiring a developer. And it's not a very technical podcast. Like, that's what I like about it. It's not like, okay, here's some great software development tools. It's more about the software business, the marketing side.
Stories behind it.
The stories behind it. And you learn a lot just from what they've done. And I've learned, a lot of very general strategies from this podcast. Like, trying to build a software, don't go and build, the next Facebook right away.
Yeah.
Build something small, get experience, figure out if you really enjoy it. So I started with WordPress plugins because they're smaller, a little more self-contained. Now I'm comfortable in that space. I'm moving on to my first web application, which is a whole different. It's a lot more complicated and a lot more involved. But I feel comfortable because I've done the WordPress side, and I have experience selling software. It's not even about the WordPress. It's the fact I started something small and I had the confidence to sell it and support it. And now I'm ready to move to something bigger. So these kind of lessons, stories from their personal experience. And I've cut down my podcast to literally like 3 now.
Wow.
3 podcasts.
Okay. So you're a big podcast listener, but very focused.
Very focused. Yeah. I used to listen to a lot of everything, and it was fun, but it was also, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I want to implement this, but wait a second. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready yet. So listen to stuff that is in your, the right time for you. So if you're thinking about Facebook ads, listen to a Facebook ads podcast.
Exactly.
If you're looking, so focus on what you like.
Yeah. Sorry. What I'm trying to do with this podcast is really, kind of, there's a lot of podcasts about introversion and, what it feels like to be an introvert, but I'm not a life coach. I'm a business coach, right? So I want to bring in the perspective of an introverted business owner, and mostly online business owner. And so that, I think I'm hoping that that's helpful in terms of, what worked for guys like you and what hasn't, and what has been the challenges, and how did you overcome them? So this has been
definitely stories really help.
Yeah,
I think this kind of podcast is very helpful. I think because you learn from other people. It's not about the technical implementation. You just learn from other people's stories. That's how, like I mentioned earlier, I learn a lot from their stories.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope people learn from your story and your failures and successes, because that's all part of it, right? Being an entrepreneur, definitely a lot of failures. I don't count them because there's just too many to count. But, you always come out on the other side, and you do it again, and eventually it works. So that's great. Thanks so much for this conversation, Hani. I think we really shared some great stories and great wisdom here. I always like to end the call with a mindful ending. What are you grateful for today, or this week, or this month?
Grateful for my family's always there, and my wife's supporting me. My kids take interest in what I'm doing, and just a very supportive household for what I'm doing. So I'm grateful for that.
And no commute in Toronto from one side to the
other. True. Actually, I do have, I'm kind of in a part-time transitioning phase right now. So I do still have a small commute. I do commute to the office.
Okay.
But the side business is growing, and shortly it will become a full-time business. But right now it's a part-time business. I do have a small commute.
Okay.
But I take advantage. That's when I listen to my podcasts.
Excellent. Okay, great. And I think that's another important lesson, and I'm glad you brought that up, Hani, is that, you don't have to go all in immediately. And I think a lot of times we kind of, I don't know, in the past, there seemed to be these people who said, oh no, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to just ditch everything and, go for it. I don't think so. And so thanks for bringing that up, because it's so important for people to understand that you don't have to quit your job to be an entrepreneur. It's actually better to start small and then, slowly transition. So Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that could be a whole separate podcast episode on that.
Definitely. Well, this has been great. Thanks so much for taking the time and chatting with me. I'll be sharing all the links in the show notes so people can have access to you and your awesome plugin that, by the way, you see on my website. So if you're on the page right now, this is Hani's SimplePodcastPress, right?
That's right. Yeah.
There you go. Thanks so much, Hani. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.
You can find Hani on Facebook at facebook.com/Hani Mourra. That's Mourra. And visit his website at hanimourra.com. That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You'll find this episode's show notes at sarahsantacroce.com/episode 19. And if you don't have it yet, get your free 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. Really, that's something you need to learn in 2017. I know it's not easy for introverts to say no, and I think that's kind of my accomplishment of 2016. If you like this episode, please subscribe to this show on iTunes or Stitcher and tell your introverted friends about it. And just a friendly reminder that you can make a tiny contribution to help me cover the costs for this show, which are around $70 to $100 per episode, by going over to sarahsantacroce.com/Patreon, Patreon, and making a monthly pledge. It can be as small as 50 cents per episode. That would just really make my day and show me that there's interest for me to keep going and producing these interviews for you. So thanks so much in advance for your contribution. I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. I know it seems long, but time flies, and pre-excitement is half the experience. Talk to you soon.